Thousands of years ago, the skygazers of the classical world knew about 6 planets: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Thanks to the invention of the telescope, Uranus was discovered in 1781. But discrepancies in its orbit meant that something was tugging at it. Sure enough, that something turned out to be Neptune. Ever since, scientists have wondered if there might be yet another planet in our solar system, sometimes called Planet X. Now, astronomers have strong evidence for one. A planet roughly the size of Neptune, with a mass 10 times the Earth's, and a thick atmosphere of hydrogen and helium. Just as Neptune was predicted based on its influence on Uranus, the evidence for Planet X is indirect. Astronomers observe 6 small solar system objects and notice they come closest to the Sun in a unique configuration. There's only a 1 in 15,000 chance that this orbital clustering is a coincidence. It is much more likely that Planet X has shepherded the 6 objects into their orbits. This explodes our conception of the solar system, because Planet X would loop around the Sun unimaginably far away in a strange elliptical orbit, so far away that it takes 15,000 years to make the trip. By comparison, Neptune's orbital period is 165 years. Of course, not everyone will be convinced of Planet X until we have visual proof. Researchers are now using one of the world's largest telescopes, Subaru, in Hawaii, and they say they have a reasonable chance of finding Planet X in the next 5 years. Once spotted, we can welcome Planet X as the 9th planet in our solar system.
So that's Nibiru over Tugum, at 9 o'clock last night. There's no other stars in the sky, and it's about 3 times bigger than Venus. We're going to try and get it better tonight with a more stable truck, but
third week of November 2016. Disasters have swept the globe with a fury this year. Massive floods have happened across the United States, Europe, and the Far East. What is causing these catastrophic events? The cause can be seen right here. Our oceans are unusually warm, which results in rapid evaporation. The evaporation causes humidity, which results in record-breaking rainfall and raging floodwaters all across the world. Temperature extremes are becoming more prevalent each year. Even so, the maps that indicate these extremes are being altered to keep us uninformed and unaware of what is really happening here on Earth. Temperatures in both the Antarctic and Arctic regions are being whited out on maps and charts so that the public will not question whether a major catastrophe is gradually taking place. Some anomaly maps blot out various regions with gray, which means insufficient data, while other maps show the real dangers. The devastation continues across the globe while federal, state, and military officials are drafting contingency plans when the big one hits the fan. These plans reflect deep anxiety about a looming disaster, an economy and infrastructure that would be wiped out in the blink of an eye. Recent events show how truly vulnerable we are and whether we will ever see an effective government response to these events. Disturbing events are happening across the globe on a daily basis. Civilizations are on the verge of collapse as social unrest and the threat of human annihilation by forces both on Earth and in the heavens becomes the topic of the mainstream media. Is our planet about to change forever? Here are but a few of the many discerning developments taking place recently.
May be heading closer to a flashpoint for the first time in decades.
And News Channel 5's Rebecca Schleicher shows us why experts say the presidential election will play a key role in the recent resurgence of Cold War tensions.
The president issued an executive order today trying to get the science community prepared for solar storms that could disrupt us here on Earth.
Solar storms happen all the time. Scientists say that they're like 1 million nuclear bombs exploding at the same time.
One way to get at America, and an easy way, quite frankly, is through an EMP attack, an electromagnetic pulse attack.
So we've known about the capability of EMP. The first study had the commission headed by Roscoe Bartlett, Republican out of Frederick, Maryland, 2004. Testimony in that study indicated 90%, let me repeat that, 90% of all Americans will die within 12 to 18 months after an EMP event.
So what exactly is it that is causing the world to become entrenched in fear and uncertainty? Could an astronomical phenomena be responsible for the tumultuous behavior of so many people and nations across the world, and the restless and unsettling events now taking place on this planet? The answer is yes, it could be, and this may explain why. I have mentioned previously how earthquakes are becoming more frequent and more intense as time passes. In 1939, a very knowledgeable prognosticator named Carlos Munoz Ferrada, who was also a professional astronomer, engineer, and physicist, predicted with extraordinary precision a devastating earthquake that the mainstream science had asserted was impossible to predict. His prediction was published in the journal El Sur from Concepcion, Chile, on Thursday, January 19th of 1939, but it was ignored. That day, he predicted that on January 24th of that year, at 7:10 p.m., an earthquake would devastate Chile. But no one believed him. Indeed, with only 4 hours apart, his prediction was fulfilled. At 11:29 p.m., for 18 seconds, Chile shook. A major earthquake destroyed 5 provinces in southern Chile, killing 40,000 people. In reality, he accurately predicted a series of quakes in May of 1960. He predicted the powerful tsunami that reached Alaska, the great earthquake of 1965 in Laguna, and the 1985 quake in Valparaiso, Chile. He was able to foretell seismic events mathematically by calculating direct correlations between astronomical phenomena and Earth events. The most significant prediction found by Munoz Ferrada was not an earthquake, though, but the future arrival of a great comet planet, also known as Hercolubus, or Planet X. He calls it a comet planet because it is as big as a planet, presumably 6 times bigger than Jupiter, but has a tail and follows the elliptical orbit like a comet, and travels between the sun and a black sun that is 32 billion kilometers away. Hercolubus hasn't penetrated the solar system for 13,000 years. And 13,000 years ago were the times of the lost Atlantis. The comet planet has a lot of cosmic energy, does not respect the established laws of celestial mechanics, and has resonance and radioactive effects that can produce reflections and weaknesses, and could cause illnesses, epidemics, and affect human behavior. The ninth planet, or comet planet, will enter the solar system and get as close as 14 million kilometers of the distance from the Earth. It will become visible and people will be able to photograph Planet X. It will cause a catastrophic attraction of the incandescent mineral liquids of Earth's inner structure, triggering earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions. Its effects will be devastating. 2 years before his death in the year 2001, Munoz Ferrada revealed that all these geophysical and climate changes in planet Earth would intensify from the year 1999 going forward. According to Carlos Ferrada, an astronomical phenomena will occur within our present time frame. Among the characteristics of this phenomena are the following. It is a red planet which travels an elliptical orbit of a comet and has the great mass of a planet. In other words, a planet with a tail. The star is charged with cosmic energy, as to say rarefied radiation which, according to scholars, will alter human health and behavior. It will provoke incurable epidemics and irritability, bringing wars. It does not comply with the conventional established celestial physical laws. It travels between our sun and a black sun, which is found 32 trillion kilometers away. It will pass as close as 14 million kilometers from Earth. It is approximately 6 times bigger than Jupiter. Thus, its approach of 14 million kilometers from our world will create a disastrous attraction with the incandescent liquid minerals inside the Earth, precipitating tremendous internal pressures and therefore volcanoes and earthquakes. It will end up penetrating our solar system and be visible to the naked eye as well as being photographed. Its arrival will cause human and geophysical changes, bringing much change and destruction to the Earth. Indeed, this is how the planet has been seen and photographed, even though the official media has given this phenomena various false explanations. Now you can, for yourselves, see various photos and videos of 2 suns on various web pages and newspaper publications. Carlos Ferrada corroborated that which was already stated by the great humanist Samuel Weor in the late 1970s, both in relation to Hercolubus as well as that the scientists who are at the service of the large groups of economic and political power establishments would publish various false interpretations in order to try to cover up the reality of this approaching planet in order to protect the financial markets. Thus, they have posted that this observed star is Mars or some visiting star, and they have invented scenarios to justify the fall of the satellites and shuttles, as well as the terrible atypical electromagnetic and radioactive storms throughout the whole solar system. There is research now being conducted that links mass extinctions on the Earth to a suspected 9th planet, according to Daniel Whitmire, a professor of astrophysics and present faculty member at the University of Arkansas Department of Mathematical Sciences. He published findings in the January issue of Monthly Notices of the Royal Astronomical Society that the as yet undiscovered Planet X triggers comet showers linked to mass extinctions on Earth at intervals of approximately 27 million years. Whitmire and his colleague John Matisse first published research on the connection between Planet X and mass extinctions in the journal Nature in 1985 while working as astrophysicists at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. Their work was featured in a 1985 Time magazine cover story titled "Did Comets Kill the Dinosaurs?" A bold new theory about mass extinctions. At the time, there were 3 explanations proposed to explain the regular comet showers: Planet X, the existence of a sister star to the Sun, and vertical oscillations of the Sun at its orbits, the galaxy. The last 2 ideas have subsequently been ruled out as inconsistent with the paleontology record. Only Planet X remained as a viable theory, and it is now gaining renewed attention. Whitmire and Matisse's theory is that as Planet X orbits the Sun, its tilted orbit slowly rotates, and Planet X passes through the Kuiper belt of comets every 27 million years, knocking comets into the inner solar system. The dislodged comets not only smash into the Earth, they also disintegrate in the inner solar system as they get nearer to the Sun, reducing the amount of sunlight that reaches the Earth. And so the saga of Planet X Nibiru continues today, despite the relentless efforts of shills and debunkers to shuffle it under the rug or lay it to bed once and for all. But as we already know all too well, this story does not die and does not go away, because what is unreal for some is very real for others, and reality is in the eyes of the beholder. Here now is this week's Planet X update. The evidence is mounting, and soon all things will be revealed. Check out these amazing captures by observers just like you. I have to say with some concern that what we are seeing in these images from Bloomberg TV on November 15th is incredible. 2 suns clear as day captured by their cameras. Either we are being manipulated by the media and various disinformation agencies, or what is now being revealed is very real and should have each of us on pins and needles, trying to decipher the information that is coming in faster than it can be analyzed. Listen to the individual at the end of this video who is watching this program as he shouts out in astonishment, "Look, 2 suns."
British American already owns 42% of Reynolds. Home Depot posted third quarter earnings that beat estimates, the largest home improvement chain signaling confidence that Americans will keep spending on renovation projects. The company raised its profit forecast for the year. Home Depot's same-store sales were up a better than expected 5.5%. Jaguar is working on its first electric car. The Jaguar I-Pace is set for production in 2018.
The red planet Nibiru and its iron oxide dust tail suddenly appears on the Mastria Observatory webcam in Brazil just this morning, November 17, 2016. Notice the very distinct V-shaped outline of the debris tail. This is a first-time anomaly from this particular webcam observation center. The following images were originally posted by one of our Facebook followers who recently observed the formation of the system while traveling on a flight from Los Angeles to San Francisco. He mentioned that several passengers saw the formation and were astonished. He mentioned that the flight attendant had thought that it was possibly a sundog capture But as you can see from these images, this is no sundog anomaly or an ordinary lens flare. Coincidentally, these images posted on our Facebook page have gone viral across the social media sites in the last few days. A Skywatch observer from Iowa captured these still images on November 16th, showing a planetoid or brown dwarf visible to the upper left of the sun prior to sunset. This may be the same object that is now said to be following the path of Venus across the western sky. And this image possibly showing the same object as it appeared for just 1 hour as the sun was setting in Oregon. This video, published on November 16th by Impossible Channel, seems to corroborate the images that we just showed. This includes footage of an incoming brown dwarf star that was observed by an amateur astronomer in Texas recently. So listen in as the narrator describes this entity, which is strikingly similar to the images just shown.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is James Lefroy of the Impossible Channel. I believe we are going into a boat ride, guys. David Keller sent us an email today with 3 pictures from a brown dwarf star approaching our system. And it may be already here, and that's what you're seeing in the sky. And that's what's making the moon look red and the sky look pinkish, okay? The date of the pictures are from November 14th, 2016, and the direction he was looking at as an astronomer is south by southwest, and the time was taken at 6:30 and 45 degrees up from our ecliptic. So I'm gonna leave you with some videos and pictures, and I think you should share this right away. Okay, this is coming from all over the world. This is really serious. The government's not going to talk about it. I believe they're actually fleeing, okay, to this anonymous country. I don't know, maybe Antarctica, whatever. They're not going to talk about it, okay? And they're going to leave us with whatever cataclysm, whatever, catastrophe is going to happen, okay? So please do share this right away, okay? Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Comment below on what you're going to see right now. This video is going to get rough, okay? So watch it until the end. Thank you very much for being here. See you again.
And here is an image taken on November 9th from southwest Alberta, Canada, showing this object shortly after Venus had set below the horizon. This amateur astronomer has indicated that this object is observable just to the left and slightly above Venus in the night sky. And finally, this image from Argentina on November 12th, showing the brown dwarf at the 4 arrows, visible prior to sunset. Cierto entrate in Spanish refers to the entrance of the body, a celestial body in this respect.
And it is back in the news again today. The California Institute of Technology published a study claiming they have discovered a true 9th planet beyond Pluto.
For the first time in 170 years, Evidence of this ninth planet was found on the far edge of the system. Astronomers at the California Institute of Technology have not directly seen it yet, but they think it's up to 10 times bigger than Earth and 20 times farther away than Neptune.
Two scientists at Caltech say they've discovered a ninth planet in the outer corners of our solar system.
It's pretty exciting to know it's out there and waiting to be found. 2 years ago, we realized that there was something funny going on in the outer solar system.
What these orbits are showing us, they're showing us sort of a gravitational one-way sign towards the existence of an additional body.
These researchers say for the last 13 years, a handful of objects have been found by other astronomers, and all of these objects swing in the same direction.
That can't happen by chance, so we knew something funny was going on.
Many may remember Mike Brown for his role in demoting Pluto as a planet about a decade ago.
What's the evidence that it's there?
So the evidence is that we can look at objects orbiting around our solar system and figure out why their motions are the way they are, because of the gravitational influences of everything else around. So we looked at a small group of objects newly discovered and realized we couldn't actually completely understand their motion. However, if we insert into the equation about that an object about the size of this Planet 9, everything then worked out perfectly. So that's what gives the suspicion that it really does exist.
They can't exactly see this thing from a telescope or anything like that. Instead, they are using data about how other objects as far out as Pluto are reacting and moving out of alignment, getting out of its way. So data like that actually suggests a heavy gravitational pull, which primarily comes from things that are qualified to be called planet. But they do have two giant telescopes on two different continents searching for the physical evidence of this thing's existence. Right now, the best that they can say is that something really, really, really big beyond Pluto exists because space rocks are moving out of the way, as well as it's causing misaligned positions among the outer planets. The orbit of other celestial bodies seem to be responding to something. What that is, nobody can actually confirm just yet.
It's so far away that even though it's big, it's very, very dim and it'd be very tough to spot with a telescope.
I'm also fascinated at the idea that this planet could be so far out there and still our sun be the mass that is keeping it in the gravitational pull of our solar system.
Right, yeah, but no, it's true.
That's incredible. And so there was a thought at one point from scientists that when they thought that there was something beyond Pluto, that it might have been all the massive objects floating in the Kuiper Belt, but it's not.
Right, so all those objects are out there and they have a lot of mass, and originally the scientists said, look, a planet is such a crazy idea, maybe it's the Kuiper Belt itself that's pulling it on itself and making these orbits look funny. And they ran simulations and they tried to make that work and it didn't work. It just didn't work. There's not enough stuff out there.
So you don't see it, but you said it's all about the numbers. So two scientists are playing around with numbers and they think what?
They think, this doesn't add up. Yeah. We need to ask some other folks to take a look at this for us and tell us if we're crazy. And sure enough, that's what they did. The Caltech astronomers looked at the number and said, you know that idea about there being another planet? That's not a crazy idea. It looks like it's really possible. So now what they'll do is they'll let this information out to the rest of the astronomical community to try to help figure out what's going on, to make sure that everything's correct. And now they'll also do the observations.
And some have already stepped forward to say they're convinced.
Well, yes, they are pretty well convinced now. They need the visual evidence to back it up because, as I said, the numbers don't lie.
But the critics of this study say that it's possible that this large body is simply an ancient core of a gas giant that was ejected out to the farthest reaches of the solar system thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago.
What does this tell us about our solar system?
Well, one thing it tells us is that we don't really understand it as well as we thought we did. And another is that it probably had a very violent beginning. This thing was probably formed much closer in and then flung out, maybe in a close encounter with Jupiter or something.
You mentioned that scientists haven't seen it yet because of how far away it is and how dim it is. Is there a way for them to get visual evidence?
Yes, so the biggest telescopes in the world can theoretically see this thing if they're looking in exactly the right place. And with the publication of this new paper today, they are now going to start to look in earnest.
Hi, I'm Jim Green, Director of Planetary Science at NASA. You know, NASA works with the international science community to explore our solar system and beyond. We look to unravel the mysteries that intrigue us all as we explore and answer the big questions. Questions like, How did the Earth originate and change over time? How did the solar system begin and evolve? And what will be its destiny? What will be our destiny? Last July 14th, NASA's New Horizons spacecraft flew past Pluto, capping a half-century of exploration of our solar system. It piqued our interest about what lies beyond Pluto and what can we learn about ourselves and the origins of our solar system. The idea of a new planet is certainly an exciting one for me as a planetary scientist, and I think for all of us. The January 20th paper in the Astronomical Journal is fueling our interest in planetary exploration and stimulating a healthy debate that's part of the scientific process. I couldn't be more pleased about what's happening. You know, it's all about starting the process that could lead to an exciting result. It is not, however, the detection of a new planet. It's too early to say with certainty that there's a so-called Planet X out there. What we're really seeing is an early prediction based on modeling from limited observations. What's exciting is that, like NASA's journey to Mars or New Horizons flyby of Pluto, you will have a front row seat to see how the scientific process unfolds. Theories like this serve to stimulate ideas and conversation. They tap into our innate curiosity. It's important for us to continue to work, and we will. Anytime we have an interesting idea like this, we always apply Carl Sagan's rules for critical thinking, which include independent confirmation of the facts, looking for alternate explanations, and encouraging scientific debate. If Planet X is out there, we'll find it together. Or we'll determine an alternate explanation for the data that we've received so far. Now, let's go explore.
But Fatigan and Brown are not the first to claim that they've discovered a new major planet beyond Neptune. In fact, the hunt for Planet X has been on for over a century. But every promising claim has ultimately been shut down by scientists.
We began in 2009 with the launch of NASA's Kepler mission. Kepler's main scientific objective was to find planets outside of our solar system. It did this by staring at a single field in the sky, this one with all the tiny boxes. And in this one field, it monitored the brightness of over 150,000 stars continuously for 4 years, taking a data point every 30 minutes. It was looking for what astronomers call a transit. This is when the planet's orbit is aligned in our line of sight, just so that the planet crosses in front of a star. And when this happens, it blocks out a tiny bit of starlight, which you can see as a dip in this curve. And so the team at NASA had developed very sophisticated computers to search for transits in all the Kepler data. At the same time of the first data release, astronomers at Yale were wondering an interesting thing. What if computers miss something? And so we launched the citizen science project called Planet Hunters, to have people look at the same data. The human brain has an amazing ability for pattern recognition, sometimes even better than a computer. However, there was a lot of skepticism around this. My colleague, Deborah Fisher, founder of the Planet Hunters project, said that people at the time were saying, "You're crazy. There's no way that a computer will miss a signal." And so it was on, the classic human versus machine gamble. And if we found one planet, we would be thrilled. When I joined the team 4 years ago, we had already found a couple. And today, with the help of over 300,000 science enthusiasts, we have found dozens. And we've also found one of the most mysterious stars in our galaxy. So to understand this, let me show you what a normal transit in Kepler data looks like. On this graph, on the left-hand side, you have the amount of light, and on the bottom is time. The white line is the light just from the star, what astronomers call a light curve. Now, when a planet transits a star, it blocks out a little bit of this light, And the depth of this transit reflects the size of the object itself. And so, for example, let's take Jupiter. Planets don't get much bigger than Jupiter. Jupiter will make a 1% drop in a star's brightness. Earth, on the other hand, is 11 times smaller than Jupiter, and signal is barely visible in the data. So back to our mystery. A few years ago, planet hunters were sifting through data looking for transits, and they spotted a mysterious signal coming from the star KIC 8462852. The observations in May of 2009 were the first they spotted, and they started talking about this in the discussion forums. They said an object like Jupiter will make a drop like this in the star's light, but they were also saying it was giant. You see, transits normally only last for a few hours, and this one lasted for almost a week. They were also saying that it looks asymmetric, meaning that instead of the clean U-shaped dip that we saw with Jupiter, it had this strange slope that you can see on the left side. This seemed to indicate that whatever was getting in the way and blocking the starlight was not circular like a planet. There are a few more dips that happened, but for a couple of years, it was pretty quiet. And then, in March of 2011, we see this. The star's light drops by a whole 15%. And this is huge compared to a planet, which would only make a 1% drop. We describe this feature as both smooth and clean. It also is asymmetric, having a gradual dimming that lasts almost a week, and then it snaps right back up to normal in just a matter of days. And again, after this, not much happens. Until February of 2013, things start to get really crazy. There is a huge complex of dips in the light curve that appear, and they last for like 100 days, all the way up into the Kepler mission's end. These dips have variable shapes. Some are very sharp and some are broad, and they also have variable durations. Some last just for a day or two, and some for more than a week. And there's also up and down trends within some of these dips, almost like several independent events were superimposed on top of each other. And at this time, this star drops in its brightness over 20%. This means that whatever is blocking its light has an area of over 1,000 times the area of our planet Earth. This is truly remarkable. And so the citizen scientists, when they saw this, they notified the science team that they found something weird enough that it might be worth following up. And so when the science team looked at it, we're like, yeah, there's probably just something wrong with the data. But we looked really, really, really hard, and the data were good. And so what was happening had to be astrophysical, meaning that something in space was getting in the way and blocking starlight. And so at this point, we set out to learn everything we could about the star to see if we could find any clues to what was going on. And the citizen scientists who helped us in this discovery, they joined along for the ride, watching science in action firsthand. First, somebody said, well, you know, what if this star was actually very young and it still had the cloud of material it was born from surrounding it? And then somebody else said, well, what if the star had already formed planets and two of these planets had collided, similar to the Earth-Moon forming event? Well, both of these theories could explain part of the data, but the difficulties were that the star showed no signs of being young, and there was no glow from any of the material that was heated up by the star's light. And you would expect this if the star was young or if there was a collision and a lot of dust was produced. And so somebody else said, well, how about extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence? And it is my job, my responsibility as an astronomer to remind people that alien hypotheses should always be a last resort. Now, I want to tell you a story about that. It involves data from a NASA mission, ordinary people, and one of the most extraordinary stars in our galaxy. A huge swarm of comets that are passing by the star in a very elliptical orbit. Well, it ends up that this is actually consistent with our observations. But I agree, it does feel a little contrived. You see, It would take hundreds of comets to.
There might be a whole new planet on the other side of Pluto. It's named 2012 VP113, jokingly dubbed Biden. Get it? Corey Powell's editor-at-large for Discover Magazine in studio. How you doing, Corey?
VP Biden.
Right on.
There we go.
Correct on that. Two images show you. This is the arrow obviously pointing to it. But there are three dots on here. One is red, one is green, one is blue.
Right.
What's significant?
So this is the actual discovery image. Basically, two astronomers were looking one little patch of sky very, very far away, looking for exactly this kind of thing. Stars don't move. Planets or anything that's like a planet does. So this is color-coded. This is what they saw on different nights. They're looking for one thing moving. They color-coded it to show that all these stars are staying still. This thing is moving, and the way it's moving...
So this is just one...
It's one object, color-coded.
Is Pluto on this?
Pluto's in a whole different part of the sky.
So this is way out there.
This is way out there. This is more than twice as far away as Pluto.
Unbelievable. Why does this matter, Corey?
Well, there are two ways you can look at it. I think I look at it first of all as an exploration question. That we know where we are on Earth. We've mapped our planet. Our solar system is still terra incognita. It's full of surprises. This object is something that astronomers said shouldn't even be there. There's a whole other solar system beyond the planets that we know that are full of these things that are sort of planets, sort of comets. Some of them they call dwarf planets. That's what they're calling this one. What we're seeing is we're seeing our neighborhood. We're seeing what's around us. And then the second part.
Back in the 1950s, most people aren't aware of it, but there was a scientific storm in America all through the late 50s about this thing out there in space because the astronomers were all watching it, and that was back when they weren't afraid to talk about it. It was in the science magazines. I mean, I had a subscription to, like, Popular Science, and hell, it was on the front cover of the magazine one day in, like, 1961. And I was really excited when I saw it because here's this giant red planet on the horizon of the California coast and a humongous tidal wave coming in towards the coast. And having grew up in the mountains of the Sierras, and this thing in the magazine, it said this tidal wave coming in was going to be at least 3 miles high. And I went in and showed it to everybody in the house, and they laughed and they said, look, it says right here, there's nothing to worry about. It won't be here for another 50 years. Hey, guess what? That 50 years has came and gone. And this baby's out there in the sky. They've been watching it. I watched it. And I can tell you, this thing has got so much trash coming around it. You know how we live in a solar system? We've got 9 planets and a big sun. This thing has got 7 planets and its own sun. But I believe that instead of having dirt on it like our planet does and water, I think this thing is just a big bright reddish-orange iron ball because it's giving off all this red iron oxide dust out into the atmosphere. When we saw it at first, it was just a teeny little red speck of fuzzy red dust in the distance, but over the years as it went by and we watched it, it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then finally, about 2008, we could see this thing like it was across the street. And we could see that it was a blazing hot ball of fire giving out sparkles of red iron oxide dust for thousands of miles in every direction. And you could see the planet circulating it. Now, I'll tell you one thing that I really am nervous about. I think this thing's got a planet like ours circling it. This is its own solar system. We're about to have a solar system come through the middle of our solar system. This can't be good. But unfortunately, it looks as though that's what's going to happen. Hopefully nothing in this mess will hit us, even though it does say it will in the Bible, leastwise it does in my Bible. It says we can expect all kinds of problems. We were looking at asteroids right close to this thing. There's asteroids that are floating around right near that are orbiting the main sun itself. These things appear to be about 500 miles across. And as you go back into the tail, you get into meteorites that go back for millions of miles in the tail. This thing looks like a giant red teardrop-shaped dust cloud. And you can see, if you're able to see it up close like we did, you can see every speck out there. I guarantee you there's trillions of meteorites following this thing. Now, these CIA people that I know say that we're not going to be that close to it when it goes past us. They're saying that in order to attain breakaway speed, when it comes up around the backside of the sun, its speed will at least double, possibly more, which will put it here earlier than everybody is saying it will. And that this thing will probably be about 20 million miles from us when it crosses in front of us. And then as soon as it flips us upside down, we're going to go into its debris field tail and be pelted with meteorites. And of course in the Bible it says they will talon 70 pounds. So if you've got 70-pound meteorites falling like hail, and I can guarantee you they will be falling like hail because there are that many in the tail of this thing. This thing has got a tail loaded with trash. I mean, it's incredible the amount of stuff that's in this thing's tail. And we're going to go right through that tail, and if it doesn't beat everything on the surface of the ground into a flat putty, I don't know what it'll take. I tell everybody, you better be at least 20, 30, 40, 50 feet on the ground and have either concrete or stone above you, because it'll break through the roof or whatever you've got if you don't. These CIA guys told me that this pole shift will probably happen from start to finish in around 28 minutes. That doesn't give you a lot of warning. When you see that thing out there in the sky, you're going to have to run as fast as you can to your underground facility, because this is going to happen so fast. Now, see, here's another thing nobody's talking about. You've got this giant iron planet that they say is 47,000 miles across, getting ready to come up past us. And when it starts to approach us, it's going to start and have real serious effects.
So is it a planet or a failed star?
It's not a failed star. You know, I saw this thing up close. It did not look like a failed star. It looked just like our sun.
Right.
Okay? Would you call our sun a failed star?
No. Okay, well, you had said planet. I wasn't sure if it was like a failed star brown dwarf or a full sun. So it's a full sun?
It looks to me like a miniature sun, just like the one we have. The only difference is our sun is giving off flames and stuff, and this one's doing the same thing as it, but it's giving off this red iron oxide cloud of dust around it, and until it got close, we couldn't even tell what was in there. We could see it was hot, and it looked like it was just a dull red when we were first able to discern it through the red cloud. But as it approached, it started to become more apparent that this thing is just orange hot. I mean, to tell how hot it is, I was told that they estimated between 5 and 10 million degrees, but, you know, I don't really know, if that's right or not. I mean, it's got to be pretty hot because it's sending all of this red iron oxide dust out into space around it. Right. And it's got this enormous, and I mean enormous, at least 50 or 100,000 miles on each side of it, this red dust cloud that goes all the way around it. I know when we were watching it, as it started to make the upward swing to approach behind our sun, it was amazing. The red dust cloud settled down. Instead of being round, it started to settle down into a V, like wings, upside down wings. Right. And I thought, boy, I wonder if that's where the ancient Sumerians got the idea this thing had wings, because, you know, centrifugal force is a funny thing. When it comes back up around the planet, when we see it in the sky, my guess is it's going to look like it's got wings, because centrifugal force is going to be pulling the red iron oxide dust and particles out to one side. And then as it starts to climb out and go away from us, listen, I was told that this thing's magnetic field is going to be so strong, anybody that does not have a padded lead helmet to wear will have their brain gutted for everything they ever knew, and they'll be a complete raving moron after this thing passes. They'll they won't know, they'll pee in their pants. They won't have a clue what's going on, because this thing will gut their brain. And you know, I was reading a deal in my Bible. It says that after this happens, that nobody will care because they won't be able to remember it. Well, of course, I was told by somebody the reason that is because the electromagnetic field from this thing will be so strong, because, see, as it comes up underneath of us, it's going to start and pull us toward it. and then just like a pair of big magnets, all of a sudden it's going to lock onto us. And when it does, it's going to be like the Jolly Green Giant hit the earth in the ass. It's going to send a jolt 500 to 1,000 foot high. This is what I'm told. 500 to 1,000 foot high shock waves all the way around planet Earth. They'll be so bad that in a lot of areas that don't have good solid soil, it'll fluff it so badly that you'll practically be like you're standing in quicksand. And that this thing's magnetic field will literally gut your brain of everything. And so you may want to give some thoughts to getting you some sheet lead, build you a little lead helmet to wear, you know, like a little motorcycle helmet to protect your entire brain and the back of your neck, so that way this can't happen. Because, you know, if these guys are right about this, and I'm pretty sure they are, because I know for a fact they know what they're talking about when they say stuff. And so, you know, and it does sound reasonable to me, knowing what I do about electromagnetic energy, that this could happen.
So what you're hearing, folks, is the interview with a CIA buddy that saw exactly what we're talking about, going way back. He looked through the Hubble telescope. He says, I saw, like it was across the street. So when you have first-hand eyewitness that says, I saw it, he's describing what he saw. Now we know, we can tell he's not an astronomer. He doesn't even say the word correctly. He's probably not that educated in any of the field of science when it comes to this. But he was lucky enough to have a buddy that was there. He could take a glance into the Hubble telescope and see something that probably scared the bedoodles out of him. And they were looking at this thing back in the day when it wasn't being covered up, because they felt there was enough time. There was enough time to prepare down the road. It wasn't an immediate risk. So no big government cover-up yet. But then once somebody got a hold of it and said, listen, we can't let this cat out of the bag, because it might not seem dangerous today, but there'll be enough people making some waves, pardon the pun, that's going to cause some controversy and some conspiracy theories start running wild. So obviously it got covered up for a while, and then probably about the mid 70s, early 80s is when it resurfaced again. So here we are, folks. In 2017, 50 years later, after this insider has given his account of what he saw with the Hubble telescope back in the 60s. So we know the government has known about this for a long time. They have covered this up. And we have steadily uncovered the information, whether it be the U.S. Navy flood map, to all the information about Nibiru, Nemesis, and its planets in the solar system that's coming through our solar system. The data has been there. We have painstakingly uncovered it, and with the advent of the internet, the computer, and the social media, we have been able to pass this information along to one another very quickly. And so we know that the effects of what's happening with this solar system passing through us from history of recorded events is real. There's very biblical foundational proof that's happened in the past, whether it be pole shift of the Earth flipping on its axis, the flooding and the tsunamis that come along with that, the melting of the polar caps, the sea level rise, the tsunamis, the earthquakes, the shaking, the Earth crust breaking apart, all has been recorded, and we have been projecting the effects coming soon. The size of this Nemesis system in comparison to the Earth is staggering. Thus why the government has covered this up for all these years. executive orders written to protect the American people from the truth. And rightly so, because we know how difficult it would be to evacuate 70 million people off the coastlines. And the government has done that too. They realize the pitfalls in regard to moving this many people to safety. But for those of us that do watch these videos and research ourselves, to find the proof in the photos of the coming Nibiru and Nemesis system, the collection of these 7 planets that are in our solar system affecting us now, will continue to increase. By the time we see it in the sky with the effects coming in, that will be too late. Our time is now to begin acting on these gut feelings and research and data that we have put together. These collective ability of seeing these things before we start seeing the tsunamis flood into the coastlines. Because when this pole shift alignment happens, when the Nibiru and Nemesis and the other planets and moons come in proximity to this Earth, it will happen so quickly we will not have time to do anything. The commentator in this video that gave his account said that this pole shift will happen in approximately 30 minutes. So this effect of the oceans and sea level rise will happen very rapidly. We see the asteroid shower, meteor shower, happening on August 12th. We have a solar eclipse coming on August 21st. We have the September 23rd alignment of all the planets and stars, according to prophecy in Revelation 12. This year, September 23rd, 2017. It's no coincidence that this alignment of the celestial sign, the harbinger warning of the events coming, that it coincides with all these other things that we've been researching for these past several years. So the time is now, folks, to make the move, know exactly where and what you're going to do with the like-minded people within your group. This is not something that we can just overlook. The government has spent decades preparing for this. Many of us have spent at least 5 to 7 to 10 years researching all this. We have seen the proof of the theories by watching the sunsets and sunrises across the globe at different time intervals and different locations, from South America to the UK to Halifax, Nova Scotia, up north. We have seen photos like this. We just don't have 2 suns appearing because it looks pretty. There's a major reason why we're seeing this. So for those who have done the research and have the gut and instinctive feeling inside to say it's time, I employ all of you to pray, be led by your spirit, share with others, and make a move. Act on what you're seeing and feeling and make it happen now, before it's too late. Because when we see it in the sky, it is too late. We'll see you on the other side, folks. Have a great night.
However, before my research, if you would have asked me then if I think there is really a planet X, I would have said no. But if you ask me now, my answer will be yes. I believe there is a Nibiru in our solar system. Let me show you why. Originally, I didn't see how a huge planet, 4 times the size of Jupiter, can exist in our solar system without us knowing. But that is before I learned about TNO. Before I did extensive research on ancient prophecies, which, believe it or not, collaborated somehow. Let me put it this way. You may not recognize Nibiru when it comes, and the visit may be different from what you expected. But believe me, there is a Nibiru out there in our solar system. For people who are new to this Planet X Nibiru theory, let me give you a quick tour. According to the ancient Sumerians, the 10th planet Nibiru is on a highly elliptic 3,600-year orbit. It is called the Destroyer Planet, as when it comes, it will bring destruction and possibly the Doomsday. Wait, if Doomsday comes every 3,600 years, how come we're still here? Think about it this way. Many comets pass by our sun regularly. How many of them hit planets? The last and only one I remember was the Shoemaker-Levy 9 hitting Jupiter in July 1994. So maybe Nibiru's last flyby was harmless last time. But we may not be likely so lucky next time. Before jumping to any conclusions we cannot sustain, let me bring you another popular Nibiru theory. The planet Nibiru of Nemesis. Nemesis is supposedly our sun's brown dwarf twin. The theory was first introduced in 1984, largely based on the Earth's mass extension 26 million year cycle. An evil twin 1.5 light years away, hidden beyond the Oort cloud, would be a perfect suspect. If Nibiru is a planet of Nemesis, it could explain how its occupants survived 3,600 years without a sun. Nemesis is Nibiru's travel companion and its portable generator. When the theory was introduced in 1984, it made great sense, and at that time, scientists believed that most stars are binary. Obviously, our sun should not be an exception. However, scientists have determined that mass extinction happens more like every 50 million years. And 2 mass astronomical surveys, which ran from 1997 to 2001, failed to detect any brown dwarf in our solar system. While in 2011, NASA's David Morrison, who specializes in near-Earth objects, concluded that even with infrared telescopes able to detect brown dwarfs as far away as 10 light years, failed to find Nemesis. It is most likely that Nemesis does not exist. Of course, that is if you believe to do if they think the world will end tomorrow. Obviously, telling you will not be on the top of the list. They will build a bunker and plan shelters for people that may survive the doomsday Earth. And to avoid chaos, it is wise not to share the doomsday news with anyone. Plus, who can know for certain what will happen, right? If you think the government will always do the right thing, let me tell you what Nostradamus thought about that. Will be struck from the sky. One who cannot proceed any further. The secret closed up with the revelation, such that they will march over and ahead. If you have any doubts about Nostradamus' prophecies, check out some of my Nostradamus videos. When I compared his quatrains with historical events, I was shocked to find the unbelievable details revealed. Check out any of my videos and you will be surprised. This quatrain is grouped with 20 other doomsday quatrains in the second part of the Book of Prophecy, which I call the Doomsday Century. This quatrain seems to indicate that our government would get warnings from the sky, which can be divine, or from aliens. The message warns us, do not proceed. It is a secret that will be kept from most of us. but the warnings were probably ignored as the last sentence stated, quote, such that they will march over and ahead. Whatever the secret may be, it will be ignored, and we, mankind, will eventually face the consequences. So, if Nemesis does not exist and Nibiru is only a theory, why should we waste any more time talking about it? Actually, I think Nibiru does exist. It may be different from the mythical planet where Anunnaki reside, but it is there. Let me show you the proof about Nibiru's existence. Consider this. If you think the theory about Nibiru's 3,600-year orbit around the Sun is crazy, did you know Mars orbits the Sun every 687 days, but is already considered outside the Goldilocks zone that could harbor lives? What is the chance of life on Nibiru if Nibiru does exist? Plus, what is the chance of having a planet having a 3,600-year orbit? On the planet Eris, what you see is that it is called the most, means that we really don't know what we're talking about. Pluto and Eris both are known dwarf planets, and Tino, the so-called trans-Neptunian objects, those are minor planets with highly elliptical orbits. And if you search Wikipedia for trans-Neptunian object, a section called Putative Trans-Neptunian Objects of Planetary Size will jump out at you. It states, the existence of trans-Neptunian rock ice bodies of planetary size, ranging from less than Earth mass up to a brown dwarf, has been often postulated. For different theoretical reasons to explain several observed or speculated features of the Kuiper Belt or the Oort cloud. It was recently proposed to use ranging data from the New Horizons spacecraft to constrain the position of such a hypothesized body. Putative means generally considered or reputed to be. Doesn't this sound like an endorsement from Wikipedia? I guess Nibiru is not all BS after all. Another reason I believe planet Nibiru is real is based on what scientists found in 2003. Sedna is a red dwarf planet 86 astronomical units away from the Sun, which is about 3 times as far as Neptune. Its discovery helped push poor Pluto off the planetary lineup. But what is important to know is its crazy orbit. Its aphelion, which is the closest distance from the Sun, is 76 AU, but its perihelion is 936 AU, and it takes 11,400 years to complete an orbit. During its 11,400-year journey around the Sun, we can only get a glance when it is near us. So, can you imagine how many more planets we have not seen? Can you imagine how big the others may be? Sedna's discovery proves Nibiru is not a myth. And then we found in 2014 FE72. It is another trans-Neptunian object, but this one has an orbit period of 90,000 years, with a perihelion of 36.3 AU and an aphelion of 4,000 AU. This really pushes our solar system. Is why would life choose to grow on a planet so far away from the Sun? Well, I guess we don't get to pick our birthplace, right? We have to adapt to our environment, correct? Plus, life may have started on a beautiful, friendly planet till the planet changed. For that, I will share with you another story we are all quite familiar with, the Shoemaker-Levy 9. Did you know before Shoemaker-Levy 9's impact with Jupiter, it was not orbiting the Sun? That is a fact few people know. Time changed the comet's path and destiny. So, an advanced civilization may have been flourishing on Nibiru before the planet changed its course.